hate to say this, but at the end of the day, the easier stuff is easier to sell. The more you sell, the more you get to make. If I have somebody that paints pretty girls in white dresses, that artist is helping me do all of the other work, all of the other politically contentious, uncomfortable work that needs to get done is really supported by other work that may not be as politically on point as I would try to be or normally be.
Julia, it is wonderful to see you. We are over the moon about Overpass coming to Baltimore for the print fair. Can you tell us about you and about the press?
I sure can. I'm Julia Samuels, the master printer and director of Overpass Projects. I founded the press in 2015 after I finished my MFA at Rhode Island School of Design. I'm still here in Providence, Rhode Island. Found a very nice home here. My cat wants to say hi.
What's the press's specialty?
We do lots of color work in color etching and screen printing. I'm an artist as well, and I focus in relief printing, linoleum cuts, a lot of black and white work. I try to work with artists to really push a certain efficiency of color usage. There's a lot of behavior of a zillion layers on top of each other, all different kinds of colors. And recently, over the last couple of years, I've been studying and developing systems to really educate and guide artists along a certain path of color efficiency in a super basic way. Screen printing, we understand as a binary process, so we can print any color we want, but whichever image we use, the stencil either prints that color or it's zero. So if we move into two colors, we all of a sudden, for instance, yellow and blue, when we layer those two colors, we earn a third color without necessarily having to do the heavy lifting to get there. And as many times as we multiply that out, you can develop a 6-layer screen print that has 64 different visible colors. So I've developed a couple different systems to really educate, to show artists how those things work. So one of the first steps that I do when an artist comes in to work with me is we basically play with color, and we're working inside a grid system where they're choosing colors and I'm printing layers, and it's showing the colors that are being revealed. And once the artist and I agree on a palette, then they can take that information and draw their stencils with full confidence, understanding the resulting layers.
That must depend on a certain amount of transparency in the colors, right?
It does. And a lot of the investigation I've been doing on my own is really understanding those thresholds of how many layers can you print before the primary layers get totally obliterated. At what point are you splitting hairs and all of those things? And the primary objective is really to not to force an artist to use all 64 colors that they might be able to get, but to be able to accurately show them, if we print this red and if we print this teal, you're going to get this in between color. And if you want to use that in your design, feel free. And I really encourage artists to use that full gamut as much as it serves their vision. And then lately, so that was the grid system for screen printing is something I developed in 2019, working specifically with Michael Menchaca. And what I didn't realize is that it was basically going to inform every project I did ever since then. And then just this past summer, I've moved that same logic into etching, where, different from screen printing, etching in aquatint gives you a continuous tone variable value range, where one plate, instead of printing black or white, the plate can print all shades of gray in between. And when we move that into color, a blue plate can print a very dark blue and all the shades as they grow lighter towards white. And then, so you can imagine if you have a blue plate and a yellow plate and you're using all those different value ranges, you end up with almost infinite shades of green in between. I developed a grid system that's going to show you it's actually got 343 different visible colors using 3 aqua tint intaglio plates.
Is this something you're going to patent / publish?
Yeah, I hope so. It's been a really funny journey for me because I'm in my own artwork, I'm such a realist. All of my
And
work
such a
is
black and
and
whiteist.
such a black and whiteist. I've always loved color. My first email address was Crayola Junkie. And before I even knew about printmaking, like color and painting and everything was really big for me. And that's one of those questions I can't answer myself, is like, why are you so obsessed with black and white? Or like, why have you devoted so much time into black and white when you have this passion for all these highly chromatic and honestly a deep understanding of how it really works? Because in Overpass, I've been doing this since 2015, working collaboratively with other artists, and what I have learned over the process is that I can describe to you what I know is going to happen until I'm blue in the face. And you might get it and you might not. Or you might think you get it and you get something that's not what I'm talking about, or whatever. Building these visual aids so that the artist and I are truly on the same page of understanding has become this sort of different artistic journey for me. So I mentioned the plates with the etching plates that show you three different color plates. You layer them all together, there's 343 different permutations. One of the plates has, I don't remember the math. Let me think about it. It's a grid square of 7 by 7, and then each of those 49 squares is now divided into 7 as well. So that specific plate has, I think it has 343 different squares on it, and it took me 2 weeks to paint the aqua tint to do, and that just abstract time, the time drawing the abstract plate was so satisfying.
Ah, interesting.
As an artist, like, it fulfilled a certain itch for me that I like never believed that abstract art could fill. Like all this sort of geometric and color field work, like it's, as a spectator, as a consumer of art, I can honestly tell you that it took me a very long time to appreciate Joseph Albers or a Rothko or anything like that. And I don't remember where I was. Maybe I was in the St. Louis Museum, but they had a exhibition of Mark Rothko and it was all shown with infrared lighting. And it was a very small room compared to the size of the paintings. And I was like, the paintings are all huge, right? And so the room was like end to end, as many as you could fit in there. And then it was like floor to ceiling. The paintings barely fit in the room. And it was as many as you could fit in there. And when it was this sort of an overwhelming environmental experience, it was like the first time that I was ever like, oh, this is nice. I like how I feel right now. And that happened, that experience for me, I think it was after I'd finished my MFA, after I had started Overpass, maybe 2017 or 2018 or something like that. And that experience really changed the way I could understand and ingest this style of abstract geometric art. And then making it became this whole other experience for me as well. And another thing, I had made the plates and made them as a tool, made them so that I could work with other artists to make other work. And they've become on their own. I brought some, whoever I show them to loves them. if it's a 2-color thing, that's just like a orange plate mixed with a yellow plate, and all the vibrancy that comes out in between, they're so satisfying just as they are. So the project itself has really taken on a life of its own in terms of being a
Well,
finished art piece.
if your color wheel behind you is any indication, I mean, who doesn't love an organized color something something?
Yeah, I know. There's more. There's another one.
Oh God.
I taught last 2 semesters ago, I guess, I taught some sections of Art 101 at University of Rhode Island. And yeah, it was just like, where do I start? Where do I start?
Yeah, that's a kind of a big topic there. This will be your first time in Baltimore, because the last time the fair was at the museum was 2017 and you were a youngster still. What You've been to Baltimore, the city, I assume, and just wondering what makes you excited to come.
I visited that fair in 2017. I've always been disappointed that it went away. And under the tutelage of the great Andrew Raftery, as I'm starting my business, he's guiding me along and saying, oh, well, you need to get to Cleveland, you need to go to the EAB, you need to go to Baltimore. So it's always been on the list.
All right, nice. Thanks, Andrew. So here's a question that I've been asking everybody who runs a press like you do. If an artist is interested in publishing with you, are you open to cold calls? How do people go about getting on your list?
I am generally into cold calls. I have two branches of work that I do with artists. One I call the contract side, and one I call the publishing side. And the contract side being, you can come in and we can work on your project, and I'll send you an invoice and you walk away with all the work. And the publishing side being, for the most part so far, it's been my curation, where I invite an artist in, we work together, the scope of the project is undetermined until we've got something. Zero money out of the artist's pocket. I do my best to recoup costs and share some of the sales with the artists themselves. Everybody that works with me gets to walk away with artist proofs, and they're represented on my website, and the work comes with me to wherever fair or studio visit or portfolio showing I go to. And I do have to be selective, obviously, about who I choose to work with in this day and age. It's very important for me to work primarily with underrepresented and early career artists.
Well, there's an organic way that one can become aware of someone's work, and then there might be someone who walks up to you in Baltimore at your booth and says, "Hey, I'm an artist too." There are different methods, and some people are like, "God, don't talk to me," and some people are like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
It's interesting. It's like I think I'm stuttering because when I present an artist that I've worked with in terms of publishing, when I work with an artist in a collaborative fashion, I'm not trying to censor that artist or really guide what they're trying to do or say with the artwork, but I do believe the final product to be a part of my portfolio or the portfolio of Overpass. So I am an artistic director in that fashion, and I want the community of artists that I represent to be an accurate representation of the population of this country, primarily women, primarily people of color, and primarily giving soapbox to people who have been
Marginalized.
Yeah, Michael Menchaca is a great example of somebody who I was fortunate enough to meet him at RISD, and it's one of those explorations where the style of the work is like fully not me, like fully not what I would want or do. And also the content of the work reevaluates a struggle that I am really not a part of or really understanding of. And in working with him over the years, it's opened my eyes so much to the Latinx community and the struggle that's revolving around that. And I just feel grateful for every chance that I get to help him get his voice out there. And I feel that way with all the artists that I work with.
That's the other question I've been asking people is how comfortable do you feel nudging an artist to, put a little more content in their work instead of bunnies and sailboats or whatever?
It's I've tried to avoid it because at the end of the day, I hate to say this, but at the end of the day, the easier stuff is easier to sell. And
there it is.
the more you sell, the more you get to make. So if I have somebody that paints pretty girls in white dresses, that artist is helping me do all of the other work that needs to be made. All of the other politically contentious, uncomfortable work that needs to get done is really supported by other work that may not be as politically on point as I would try to be or normally be.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. I mean, when I was running the fair at the museum, there was, in my own mind, there was a bar. My criterion for every vendor who was there was I need and want something from every person for the collection, not from me, for the collection. And that bar is up here. Like puppies and sailboats won't fly at that level, right? So it's me now turning into a non-museum person. I'm having a hard time taking off my nonprofit museum hat. So yes, puppies and sailboats are allowed if it helps you do everything else. All right, you could close out for me by telling me that you love printmaking and that you're thrilled to be in Baltimore and can't wait.
I love printmaking. I'm so excited to come to Baltimore. I can't wait. Like that? Was that good?
Yes. Anything else about that? No? Okay, that's fair. All right. Well, that's really just about it. That's all I really wanted. Well, you elaborated on a few things that I was fascinated by. I mean, the whole color thing, especially when you were talking about the aquatints, kept running through my brain and how he would overlay tertiary colors to get the primary colors. It takes a real kind of brain to do that sort of really organized science. So kudos to you.
Yeah, and it's been the funny perspective for me is that it's so intuitive for me. Color mixing, where color comes from, if you add the ochre to the Payne's gray, like what color is going to come out. Like I can do that. And it's been a struggle for me to even understand how it's not intuitive to everybody else. And then how to break it down enough so that I can get you there with. So it's been a learning process for me. Like the tools and educating the artist, like it's educating myself as well. Like every time I work with another artist, it's a new learning experience. Everybody has a different language. Everybody has a different understanding and nomenclature. And it's about finding how you're both confident that you're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Yeah, I over my 50 whatever years have often remarked that I always make the mistake of thinking people think like I do, and it's just not like.
Well, and something I tell my students all the time is like students will do a drawing and they'll put it up on the wall and they'll say, "Oh, I don't like." Everybody starts with what they don't like about it. And I say, "Give us a chance to appreciate it. Don't cut it down immediately." And also remember, nobody knows. Nobody is ever going to see. Nobody is ever going to guess or understand what you were going for, what your vision was in your own mind. Nobody's ever going to see that. Whatever you have right now, that's the reality, right? Whatever dream you had up here, don't tell us how you didn't get there. Don't tell us how it didn't meet what you wanted. Understand that nobody knows what you're thinking. Nobody knows what I'm thinking. Nobody knows what you're thinking. We pretend through language and all of these other things. We try to get to the same page, but honestly, like nobody really knows if you're being understood by anybody else, and nobody can see what your vision or your dream is just about ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Ben used to always say that to me. They don't know what you don't know. Stop apologizing because they have no idea what you know and don't know.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank
Of
you.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, honestly though, truly though, I am really excited to come to Baltimore. I've been I was sad because I went to the fair in 2017. I thought it was beautiful. I loved how the rooms itself were really nice. Cleveland does the same thing where all of the vendors are just on the same platform. There's no different booth sizes. There's no hierarchy in terms of who's obviously successful and who's just beginning. Like everybody's just on the same platform. I really, really appreciated that. And then it didn't happen anymore, and I was disappointed. And then I got a great email from you, and I was like, yes.
Kismet. I know. Oh, it was disappointing for me also. And I've spent the last 5 years watching and listening and asking if anyone's talking about the fair. And it just was a silence. So I thought, when I had the opportunity to pair up with Brian and Julia, let's do it. Let's do it. It's kind of a miracle, really.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I know it's not the same. I know it's not going to be the same thing as it was when it was in the museum. But how many vendors were there? How many vendors are there going to be?
Yeah, a good question. At the Baltimore Museum Fairs, the last three that I was the director of, we had 20 vendors in each of them. And you're right, they did have basically an equal running feet of walls, maybe 23, 24 feet or something. There were corners that were better than others, let's face it. But at the new fair, we have 22 booths. Two of the booths are being shared by two exhibitors. So 24 vendors total. And yeah, and we do have a large and a small size booth. We'll have to see how that goes, actually, Julia. I don't
Well,
know.
either way, like it's going to be exciting. One of the things I'm really excited about is that also going to the fair is putting your name on the map and advertising. And if I'm not on the list, then am I even in business? Like, do I even exist? So there's other value in terms of what presenting at any of these shows gets you. So, I mean, all that aside, what I'm trying to get to is at the Baltimore Fair, I'm going to be on the same platform as IFPDA people. You know,
Yes.
I'm going to, like, Overpass is going to be on the same platform as Tandem. I mean, just as good. Like,
I know. Let's talk about the big dog.
yeah, like for me, that's huge to be able to
Right.
be on. Yes, I'm going to have a smaller booth and they're probably going to have the giant booth, but we're in the same room. And that, as a young, fledgling publisher, it's huge to be able to be in the same concert as everybody else. So I'm really looking forward to that.
So I'll have to sign off. I'm sorry to say, because I've enjoyed our discussion thoroughly.
Yeah, it was nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
I'll see you in a few weeks.
I will see you in Baltimore very soon. Bye.
Bye.